Roy sir.
Very good afternoon to you all. Am I audible?
No, sir, you are not audible.
Sir, your voice is very dim.
Dr. Basav, I think you're Dr. Basav. So, good afternoon to all. Dear and respected chair of this webinar, Dr. Sanjay George, College. My teacher and the Deputy Director of HRDC, Punjab University, Chandigarh.
May I request to mute the participants, please. Request. Please mute Dr. Basav's.
Sir, please mute your mic.
The organizers can also mute the mic.
Madam, you can mute the mic for this.
We can remove them otherwise. I am starting. Start with the current prayer now. Just a minute. So, dear and respected chair of
May we let us request Dr. Basav to kindly mute his mic. Otherwise, we cannot hear you.
Mr. Basav, can you hear?
Dr. Basav, please mute. First, you can mute the mic for this.
I think he is not here. Yeah. Okay. A very warm good afternoon to all. So, after so many days' work, we are here. We have gathered here to discuss about this new education policy. I hope I am audible to you. So, dear and respected chair of this webinar, Dr. Shanti George, principal of St.Mary's College, and my teacher and deputy director of HRDC, Punjab University, Chandigarh, Dr. Jayanti Datta Roy, who will inaugurate our national webinar and will be the key resource person today. Dr. Tommy Joseph, who will take a session. He is part of our college. Reverend Father Joshi Vayaparambil, our manager. Dr. Rajaman Timavangal, our principal sir. Dr. Tommy Joseph, IQC coordinator. And participants, a very warm good afternoon to you all. The duty bestowed upon me is to welcome you all to this auspicious occasion, this auspicious online platform to discuss on new education policy 2020. So our webinar is designed for 2 days. Convenience. So at first, I would like to welcome Dr. Shanti George, Principal of St. Mary's College, Sultan Bathery, who is chairing this session. She was an enormous supporter of this program from the very beginning. And this idea of this webinar also sprouted from St. Mary's College. And from, so I thank you. Welcome, Madam.
Thank you. Thank you.
So and I would welcome Dr. Jayanti Datta, HRDC Punjab University. So she is the key resource person of today. So she's my teacher also personally. So she is very dedicated to the profession, and she leads a very simple life. And she is training the teachers all over India for the last 20 years. So with a great love and respect, Madam, I welcome you.
Thank you very much. I am honored to be on the platform. Thank you.
So now I would welcome the resource person, Dr. Tommy Joseph, to this event. So he's going to, I hope that he will very critically analyze all the aspects of this NEP 2020. He has been studying this topic since the beginning and before the release of this new education policy. I hope that it will be a very fruitful session. So all are requested to get the benefits. So Tommy sir, I welcome you. So heartfelt welcome to you, sir.
Thank
So
you.
now I would welcome the management of both the colleges. So for the enormous support. So from the very beginning. So actually these ideas, great ventures sprout from the vision. So the management has a vision. So at first I would like to welcome Father Joshi Vadaparambil, our beloved manager, and also the management of St. Mary's College, Sultan Betteri together. Father, you are welcome. So now I would welcome the principal and staff of our college and the St. Mary's College, Sultan Betteri. On behalf of IQSC and Department of Political Science of our college and St. Peter's College, Kolancheri, IQSC of St. Mary's College, Sultan Betteri, I welcome you all and other teachers and researchers of various colleges and universities all over India to this auspicious occasion. I would also welcome tomorrow's key resource person, Dr. N.B. Ashley, Assistant Professor, St. Stephen's College, Delhi, and Dr. Harneet Billing, Assistant Professor, Guru Granth Sahib World University, Punjab. So they are also welcome, though they are not here now. So I also use this opportunity to thank you all for your cooperation and presence. So once again, I welcome all those who are present in this Google platform and YouTube Live. Welcome you all. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the welcome address. Now, next, I request Dr. Shanti George, Principal of St. Mary's College, to give the presidential address. Shanti, ma'am.
Okay. Respected Father Joshi, Manager, St. Xavier's College, Dr. Rajmohan, Principal, St. Xavier's College, Dr. Tommy Joseph, Associate Professor, St. Xavier's College, Dr. Jayanti Datta Roy, Deputy Director, HRDC, Punjab University, Lieutenant Dr. Roy Matthew, Ms. Anita Elizabeth Matthew, Program Coordinators, IQAC team members of St. Xavier's and St. Mary's College, and dear participants. I welcome you all in this webinar on National Education Policy 2020, Implication on Higher Education. Education is the most important element for the growth and prosperity of a nation. Our curriculum must develop a learning environment based on equality, respect, and human dignity. Should train students' power to reflect, study, and think critically about the world around them and come up with their own ideas and solutions. Skill building is very essential to ensure employability, and students should be able to apply what they want to their lives. And our country is on the process of transforming into a developed nation in the near future. And trained and skilled human resources, educated on a platform of social equality and equal opportunities, will help India's vision of being a developed nation. Quoting the words of Jawaharlal Nehru, a university stands for humanism, for tolerance, for reason. Towards even higher objectives. If the universities discharge their duties adequately, then it goes along with the nation and the people. Hope our new national education policy will provide high quality education to all and thereby making India a global knowledge superpower. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, I would like to request Jayanti ma'am, who is the one of the key resource persons of today, to please give the inaugural address and inaugurate the session, the webinar.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me on this platform, as I earlier said. And I would like to, first of all, address all the dignitaries who are here with us today. Dr. Shanti George and Dr. Rajumon Mavumkar from the principals of St.Mary College and St. Xavier's College and the management of the colleges. So I would also thank Dr. Roy Matthews to invite me on the platform, and I would also say that this initiative by the IQAC, the Internal Quality Assurance Cell of the two colleges, it is really appreciable, because what we are missing today in this lockdown and in this period when we are all cooped into our houses and we are not facing each other physically, is the discussions with each other, with our colleagues, with our peers, hearty discussions and debates, arguments, because actually in academics, one of the survival skills that is there is to discuss things, is to deliberate upon issues, is to argue and give counter arguments, to defend our point of view and to get validation from others. So these kind of activities that we are missing here, we are compensating them with this online platform. And it is very good. In a way, I think online is a boon also, because here we are getting this opportunity to connect with people who are from faraway places. I don't know if it was possible in some other way to come to the College of ICOM and connect to so many teachers. And this and I think this exchange of each other, this exchange of ideas with each other from all over the country, this is a very welcome thing and it should continue. Internal Quality Assurance Cell has, I think it is not only just gathering all kinds of data, that the duty of IQAC cells goes much beyond. And it goes into creating a culture of quality into the college. That culture of quality can come into the college only if some kind of professional discussions and deliberations are there. So I think IQAC cell of both the colleges is doing a good thing. I also like this collaboration between the two colleges, though I understand that the management of the two colleges is one, and therefore it is easier. But still, I would say that it is really great that people come together and create some kind of platform where many other teachers can come and discuss. So I really hail your effort, and it is very, I think I am honored to inaugurate this webinar. All the best to you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I would like to request Father Joshi Veraparambil, manager of St. Xavier's College, Vaikom, to felicitate the gathering.
Thank you. Respected dignitaries on the dais and respected resource persons, dear respected teachers and dear participants. First of all, I would like to congratulate both St. Xavier's College Vaikom and St. Mary's College Sultan Bathery for conducting a discussion on a relevant issue called New Education Policy 2020 and its implications on higher education. This new education policy has many positive and innovative ideas when we go through it. But at the same time, it has got a few drawbacks also. This webinar should discuss both aspects and it should suggest a few recommendations. Then only it is a useful seminar for us. At the same time, I wish all the best to all the participants and all the resource persons. Thank you.
Thank you, Father. Now, next I request the principal of St. Xavier's College, Dr. Rajamoon, to say a few words. Raju sir? Raju sir, please unmute your mic and say a few words of felicitation to the gathering. I think sir is not present in the meeting. Okay, we'll move on. Our resource person for the first session, Dr. Tommy Joseph, I would like to introduce him. He is the Associate Professor of the Department of Economics.
I think some range problem. So Tommy sir, you are requested to. Tommy sir.
Okay. Hi.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible? Roisa? The chairperson. Okay. The chairperson of this webinar, Dr. Shanti George, Principal, St. Mary's College. The key resource person, Dr. Jayanti Dutt Roy. Manager of our college, Reverend Father Joshi Vedaparambil. Respected teachers, staff of both the colleges and from other universities and departments. It is my privilege and honor to present a paper on the new education policy 2020. I'll be basically focusing on the implications on higher education sector. At the outset, let me just introduce by saying that, any kind of deliberation or discussion, we can always agree to disagree. It is when we agree and disagree that we are able to find more reflections on this topic or on this subject. We know that this is the third national education policy as such. The first was in 1968, the Kothari Commission report. The second one was in 1986 National Education Policy, and it is after 34 years now that we have introduced this education policy as a way forward towards the 21st century. Educational policy is the driving force for the economy and society. The earlier policies, as I just mentioned, they emphasized on access, equity, and quality. The new policy has not analyzed in detail the major pitfalls or drawbacks or deficiencies of the earlier policies. They have just mentioned the focus of the above two policies. This policy 2020 is crucial for India moving forward, taking great leaps to the 21st century. It is based upon, or it has taken lessons from, the sustainable development and goal 4 of this sustainable development goal states to provide quality education. I would exhort you all just to listen to the words of the great young lady, the Pakistani girl, the Nobel laureate, Malala. Should be learning and discovering of new things. The governments of every nation, should invest in education. And she raised two questions. One, why is it that there are tremendous cuts in education budgets of major countries, including India? That was one of the questions posed by her to the world leaders. World leaders, why is it that there are tremendous cuts to the education budgets? The second question she posed was, leaders of the world, why do you compromise for basic literacy and numeracy while your own children are sent to the best schools both nationally and internationally, and you compromise for basic literacy and numeracy for the common children of this country, of every country? And children or students have a great responsibility of building the future. The new education policy also has to be visualized against the Human Development Index report of 2019. And we know that the position of India is 129. We have the 129th rank among 189 countries, whereas Sri Lanka has 71st rank, China 85, and Maldives 105. And there is another Human Development Index that has been corrected for inequality, which brings down our composite index from 0.647 to 0.47. And there is also another index, which is a gender inequality index, where you find India ranks 122. The position is 122 out of 162 countries, whereas China, our neighboring countries, China is in 39th position, Sri Lanka is in 86th position, Bhutan is 99th, and Myanmar is 106. They all have higher ranks compared to India. When we discuss about new educational policy or national education policy, we will have to keep this in mind. So the goal for 2030, our dream is so important. At the introduction, while you have a cursory reading through the introduction, we can say it is a magnificent piece. It says about the quality of education, the need of education. The education develops full human potential. It is meant for building an equitable and just society, promoting national development, providing universal access to quality education is the key to India's continued ascent and leadership in the global stage. It speaks of building India as a global knowledge power, as the hub of education, an international hub of education. So these are all good words of the intentions. It refers to the Millennium Goal, which I have mentioned. It speaks of the need for multidisciplinary learning. Along with that, it also emphasizes the need for a holistic approach where we also build characters based on ethical, moral, and caring principles. The document also mentions that high quality education should be provided regardless of social or economic background. It should be able to meet many of the development imperatives of our country. It also provides for cognitive skills, literacy, numeracy, critical thinking, and problem solving. The guiding light or the guiding principle, it has been mentioned a number of times, is the rich heritage of ancient and eternal Indian knowledge and thought. It mentions the world-class institutions of our ancient India, like Takshashila, Nalanda, Vikramshila, Vallapi, etc. And it also mentions the seminal contributions by our great ancient scholars like Charaka, Susruta, Aryabhata, Chanakya, Panini, Patanjali, and Tiruvalluvar. Teachers are recognized as the center of our education. And it says, the document reads, that we should recruit the very best and brightest to enter the profession. There should be no hard separation between arts and science, between co-curricular and extracurricular, between vocational and academic. Learning should be holistic, integrated, enjoyable, and engaging. It speaks of school complexes and clusters. And another important recommendation is, or the proposal, to spend 6% of GDP on education. I would like to recollect that this was an ambition even set by the Kothari Commission in 1968. It is also, it has an, it says, the regulation must be light but tight. 50% by 2030 and of secondary education to 100% by 2035. It proposes a national curricular framework for the whole country. It speaks of introducing 3 as well as 4-year degrees, which are multidisciplinary in nature. The power of language is being mentioned, of life skills, communication, cooperation, and teamwork, etc. are being mentioned. It emphasizes, or it provides a great role to the learning of Sanskrit as a language. India has to be promoted as an international learning hub, making India a global knowledge superpower. To increase the GER ratio, gross enrollment ratio, one of the proposal is massive online ODL streams, open distance learning programs. There is an extensive use of technology being proposed. The 10+2 present scheme of education has been replaced by 5+3+3+4 preschools, and from 6 to 8 age we have class 1 and 2, which we call it as, it is termed as early childhood care and education. Then from 8 to 11, age of 8 to 11, and again 3 years, that is class 3 to 5, 11 to 14, class 6 to 8, and 14 to 18, classes 9 to 12. This is a big change in terms of, if you look at the education system of many advanced countries, we find a big emphasis is laid on early childhood care and education. And one of the basic principles of this policy has been to stimulate the brain in the early years. The argument is that 85% of the brain of a child develops below the age of 6. So the brain of a child should be stimulated in the early years. Rich traditions of India, we have art, music, stories, poetry, songs. This framework will serve as a guide for both early childhood care and institutions as well as for parents. The title on higher education on pages 33 to 49, on pages 33 to 49 deals with higher education. It reads, the title is A New and Forward-Looking Vision for India's Higher Education System. It mentions a number of issues or problems of our present-day higher education system, like fragmented higher education economic system, less emphasis on cognitive and learning outcomes, rigid segmentation between disciplines, limited teacher and institutional autonomy, limited access, especially for economically and socially disadvantaged groups in our society, and less emphasis on research. These are some of the drawbacks of the present day system pointed out in the policy. And the new policy visualizes high quality in higher education system with equity and inclusion. Large multidisciplinary universities and colleges, preferably colleges with more than 3,000 students. Multidisciplinary UG programs, revamping curriculum, pedagogy and assessment, greater opportunities for private investment, for philanthropist activities, greater role for open distance learning. Now, I'm not going into the details of all this, but when you read between the lines, when you go through this, we find the dreams are good. The statements are very attractive. It's a magnificent piece of work. But one or two reservations or major reservations I would like to point out is some of the contradictions that you find in the whole document. When you say something, and the opposite will be the implementation part. A number of contradictions which we can read through, and maybe this will help you to raise certain questions in your mind, to ponder between the lines. One contradiction is how to increase the gross enrollment ratio. The emphasis given on open and distance learning mode or streams. And as we lay greater emphasis on technology, if there is no public investment in education, if the government does not provide the digital media, the technology, the laptops, the provision for the connectivity and all that, then the digital divide can happen, and digital divide comes on account of the economic divide. So the economic divide persists. As we have seen, 3.29 crores of children, they are not able to complete up to +2 in our country because of the economic divide, because of lack of income. Sometimes they have to go for work, child labor. So child labor often restricts children from going to school. So there is an economic divide which may worsen with the digital divide. Secondly, it mentions of quality, not much on quality. I would expect that this policy would have dealt much more in detail on quality, because the other two, 1962 and 1986 policies, laid emphasis on access and equity, whereas this policy should have been laying emphasis on quality in education and higher education to a greater extent, because this is the policy for the 21st century. This is the policy to raise our education to global standards. It says of recruiting the staff, recruiting the best brains and the best academicians, scholars to our education system. But when it comes to the conclusion part, it says at the appointment level, we should follow a tenure track system, which means it will be not on a permanent basis. Teachers will be recruited for a specific tenure, and by the students, by the management, by the peers and all that. So even declaring a probation now becomes a big issue. And how do you expect the best brains and the best academicians, the best researchers to exist in this system when they are appointed on a tenure track? It mentions about the holistic development. But for holistic development and for taking India to global standards, often we find the term clubbing the rich heritage and legacy and traditions of our country. We have no problem with the rich heritage and legacy or the traditions of ancient India. But the only reservation is that when we think of history, we have the prehistoric period, we have ancient history which is accounted, and we also have the modern history. Now, in the whole document, why is it that the scholars of our modern times, the researchers of our modern times, the scientists of our modern India, the great contributors to the various fields of science, technology, contributions of modern India has not been mentioned in the document. So, and next, another one is to reduce, that is also a contentious conclusion, to reduce the curriculum content. For what? What is the purpose of that? I will just read through. To reduce the curriculum content, to enhance essential learning and critical thinking. How is it that when you reduce the content of physics, of chemistry, of economics, of history, that you promote essential learning and critical thinking? So this kind of curriculum reduction or reduction in curriculum or content may not raise our education system to global standards. We have to provide our students the best. Learning should be challenging. Learning should kindle a fire in the minds of our students. It should promote their inquisitiveness, the thirst for knowledge. So we have to analyze this whole document in terms of whether it promotes the critical thinking, problem-solving capabilities of our students. It provides emphasis on multidisciplinarity. Whereas it says a science student and engineering student should also learn art. He must also learn sports. So all the in IITs, we introduce various kinds of arts. It mentions of the 64 art forms. I'm not going into the details. And these art forms have to be, now they are liberalized arts. Means again the content of this art has been reduced. They have been liberalized so that anyone can pursue this art. And it says multidisciplinarity is not interdisciplinarity. Rather, we would have welcomed an approach towards interdisciplinarity. For example, a surgeon during a surgery, there is a surgeon who is a specialist. There is a physician who is also a specialist. For example, if it's a gynec problem, there's a gynecologist. If it's an ortho problem, there's an orthopedist. So we have different specialists who come together, who sit together, they resolve the problems. It is not that a civil engineer, he must specialize in civil engineering. He must not be an environmentalist. To evaluate the environmental impact of a bridge, you should have an environmentalist, not a civil engineer. So we need specialization. At the graduate level, I will also come to that when we discuss about the knowledge society and knowledge economy. I'll come to that at a later stage. So interdisciplinarity has been bypassed and multidisciplinarity has been emphasized. That is another contradiction. Regarding reservation policy, we still have our own reservations on that. It says reservation, the socially and economically backward groups have to be promoted, they have to be given education, etc. But at the same time, it gives a greater role for the private initiatives, for private institutions. Now we know that PPP, we have heard of public-private partnership. In this document, PPP refers to public philanthropic partnership. Various religious and social groups are being invited. They are being entrusted upon to provide better education to the disadvantaged groups. Here, there is also, it does not mention about the gender bias. But we know in some of the states, we have seen recently that they have started, in one state, they have started 61 Sanskrit schools, which provides Sanskrit education only. And we don't find, we have seen the visuals of those schools. They are chanting the hymns, the songs, and now you don't find even a girl child. So there could be some kind of education as envisaged in this report or the policy document, that there is exclusion for female students. Then regarding reservation, it says there will be more evaluations regarding the kind of scholarships received by students. So that is another issue. Regarding comparing, I said about taking India to global standards. Now again, there is a comparison between ancient civilizations and modern developed countries. That is also a contradiction. When we visualize a knowledge society, a vibrant knowledge society, and making India a global knowledge superpower, there is comparison between the ancient civilizations like the Indus Valley civilization, the Mesopotamian civilization, the Egyptian civilization. It is being compared to the modern countries, especially ones which have the best education systems in the world, like South Korea, like Israel, Germany, US, Japan. How can you compare the ancient civilizations with the modern countries which have developed with scientific temper, with rationality, with logical deductions, critical thinking, and problem-solving methodologies? So, does it require that we only have a peripheral knowledge? When we say about the undergraduate multidisciplinary approach, we often see that the emphasis on peripheral knowledge, it is not sufficient. We have to specialize in our basic science. We call US as a knowledge economy or knowledge society. We know the ICT developments. Most of the IT giants, they are from the Silicon Valley. There was a university industry interface. The giants, IT giants, whether it is Microsoft, it is Sun Microsystems, whether it is Oracle, whether it is Hewlett Packard, HP, all these giants developed with the great support from the government through public sector investment. We know that ICT has developed. Say, for example, the Internet came forth to meet the requirements of the US military force. And there was great investment by the US governments, the military. And that is where many of the universities, many of the scientists, many of the IT companies came up. They started. And there was also research in basic science like microelectronics and superconductivity. All this fostered the growth in science and technology. And also you look at the research and development statistics. When you say US is a knowledge economy or Israel is a knowledge society, look at the research and development expenditure as a percentage of their GDP. In US, research and development expenditure is 2.8% of GDP. In Israel, it is 4.3% of GDP. In South Korea, it is 4.3% of GDP, whereas in India, it is just 0.69%. It used to be less than 0.5%. Now it's 0.69% of GDP, not even 1% of GDP. So the whole question is, or the crucial question is, how much will be the public investment in education? We cannot rely on private and foreign universities to build the gap, to provide education to the remotest villages of our country. And you look at the nature of the new universities that is being advised in this policy, the research-centric universities, then the teacher-centric universities, then the colleges which will be autonomous colleges, which means autonomy means financial autonomy, academic autonomy, as well as administrative autonomy. An autonomous college will have to find its own funds. So it will have to collect fees from the students and provide the staff. So it means that the reservation policy may not suit the autonomous colleges. And secondly, only people the students or parents who can afford to pay, they will have higher education. So the whole question of access to higher education, and when you read through the policy, it says that now less than 5% of the students have vocational training. By 2030, we estimate, or the government proposes, to increase education in the vocational sector by 50%. That 50% of the students move to vocational education. And there is a new clause that is regarding multiple entry and exit. That is very interesting. If a student joins a degree course, after 1 year, he says, "Ma'am, bye, I am done, I am leaving, give me my certificate." You have to give him a certificate. After 2 years, the student says, "Bus sufficient, I am leaving, you have to give me a diploma." After 3 years, you have to give him a degree, or after 4 years, maybe an honors or PG, etc. And now we don't know whether the teachers, the students, will pursue their education. You admit 50 students, after 2 years, we don't know. There is no permanency of students, there is no permanency of teachers because of the tenure track system. So maybe we have an arena, environment where there is no permanent teachers, no permanent students. That could be one of this new educational policy. When there is so much of discussion on ancient history, our Indian philosophy, thinking. And when the document speaks of one centralized or uniform curriculum for the whole country, national curriculum framework, we know we take pride in India being a diverse country. Diversity is a special feature of our country. That is the beauty of our nation. The state level, the diverse characters, that is also dangerous. Then it says about the regulatory approach, that we can doubt it as a centralized approach. You know, it's not only this policy, there are so many other policies where the government follows a centralized approach. We have the National Higher Education Commission and so many other restrictive commissions as part of this. So there is regulation, or it is a centralized approach, though it mentions that it is education comes in the concurrent list. Many of the rights of the states are being withdrawn, as you have seen even in the case of our tax system. We find sometimes the basic principles of our democracy or the constitutional values have been forgone. Even in the case of our GST, for example, GST, I've just mentioned. So we cannot just, and again it says we have to promote it as an international hub. Very nice to hear. That there should be teachers from abroad and students from abroad, they are welcome. And students can go abroad, Indian students can go abroad and can have exposure abroad. But the question is, do we have that sufficient quality of teachers in our country who are eminent? So we have, whether we have the social economic standards which will attract students from other countries. That is where I've just mentioned at the prelude about the Human Development Index. So what is the way that we have to go? The long way we have to tread. We have to go. That's why I mentioned about the human basic citizenship. Exclusion of some people. This policy can also lead to exclusion of education. The vocational content, the vocational education. Just imagine who will be the students who will be left out. Who will be the students who will be thrown out after 1 year, after 2 years? It is the economically, socially, and backward students, unless there is a great precaution regarding this. We also have to analyze any policy not in isolation. You know, recently there was an emergency session of the Parliament. 2 bills have been passed. One is the agricultural bill, You know, the agriculturists of our country are in big protests. Why? The procurement policy has been changed. There was a national or central procurement which guarantees the minimum support price for our crops. The farmers want to restore this policy. Then we also have another policy which also have great implications. That is the labor policy. You know that India is one of the signatories of ILO, founder members of ILO. There is the minimum wage act. There is the ESI benefits, etc. And the new policy says that if there is less than 300 employees, an employer can just dismiss without a person or laborer without giving a prior notice. So the tendencies of, we can see if you go through the agreements of World Trade Organization on the services sector, the Indian economy is forced to open up the various banking, insurance, medical sectors, as well as the educational sector. The Doha round of talks, if you go through that, you'll find that it has become a compulsion for the country. So as our international girl, the Nobel laureate Malala, speaks of education, we have to question, or we have to visualize, we have to evaluate this policy not in isolation, along with the various reasons. We also have to evaluate whether this policy will take India to be a knowledge society, a global knowledge power of the 21st century. We had to incorporate more of scientific thinking, scientific temper, scientific approach in education. That is my conclusion. Hope you will go through this, evaluate this policy, read between the lines, and you will find your own answers.
For all of us through your critical analysis of NEP. Now, I would like to introduce you to our key resource person, Dr. Jayanti Datta Roy. Dr. Jayanti is a faculty at Punjab University and is the Deputy Director of UGC Human Resource Development Center, HRDC. She has an experience of 20 years in the field of training and has trained about 5,000 higher education academicians in about 100 programs. She is the recipient of the Best Short Film Award in 2013 for her film on tuberculosis, awarded by CSIR. She has developed e-content for educational television and MOOCs for Swayam portal of MHRD. Now, I invite ma'am, we are looking forward to your insightful words of knowledge about NEP and how we as academicians and research scholars as faculty members can have to prepare ourselves for the policy.
Thank you, Elizabeth Matthew. Thank you very much. I would just, before I begin my session, just would you like to tell me that how much time do I have?
Ma'am, you can take about 45 minutes and then 15 minutes of discussion.
That is right. Okay. And actually, Dr. Tommy sir has made my work easy because he has already discussed all the points that we need to discuss here. So thank you very much. And my topic that we have discussed today, and I have discussed it with Reverend Roy Matthew. And we thought that it would be nice to actually work on this topic, that how should we engage with the national education policy. Nowadays, what we are watching, and in my university also, what I'm seeing is there are hundreds of seminars and webinars going on NEP 2020. I think it must be 100 seminars that we have done in our university. And everybody is taking one aspect and speaking about it. And then I started thinking that why do we have so many seminars? Why do we need to? What are we discussing, and why are we doing it? And what should be my role? Is it only to listen to all these speakers? Then after listening, what? So all these thoughts have led me to this kind of reflection, and I am discussing these things only with you. And I have my topic of this theme that I will be discussing is how should faculty engage with National Education Policy 2020, right? So next slide, please. And next slide, please. Yes, Elizabeth, ma'am.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Can I have my next slide, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Okay, thank you. So before I begin my session, there are certain disclaimers. My disclaimers are, first of all, about the title. The title, as I said, how should the faculty engage? But I think many people can take some offense on the use of the word should, because should is some kind of an authoritative word. So instead of, you can also change it with how would faculty, or maybe, because it is maybe my personal opinion, and please don't take it very seriously. Then what I am presenting today is random thoughts. It's not very well researched because we do not have much time for going into a deep research. But what I am presenting today is based on the critical engagement, first of all, with a draft policy, which came before this NEP and which was around 350 pages, which I read very carefully, and we had deliberations on that. And then reading of the NEP, this NEP 2020, discussions with my colleagues, both offline and online, and listening to the interviews and deliberations like of Dr. Tommy Joseph. And then my aim today in these 45 minutes is to share with the colleagues and peers and to initiate some discussions, ideas exchange, arguments and counter arguments, and frameworks that I'll be working on. So yes, please, next slide. Yes, thank you. So the reason one is we are stuck with this policy. I hope all of you remember, and Dr. Tommy Joseph has already spoken about it, that the first policy came in 1968. There were other commissions also. Radhakrishnan Commission was there, Yashpal Committee report was there, but there were three policies in 1968, 1986, and now in 2020. So the first policy came after around 20 years of India's independence. The second came after 18 years of independence, after 18 years of the first policy, and the third policy came 34 years after 1986. So be prepared for this, that we are stuck with policy for at least 20 years, right, on an average. And there have been other four commissions also, which you can see were in 1948, 1964, 2005 and 2009, which again there is a lot of gap between the time periods. So we have to understand that this is a policy which I think if you are new into the system, or if you are midway into the system, then you have to face the consequences of this policy. And as we all know, that a policy is a proposed action by an organization or an individual. So it is only a proposed action. A policy is not complete until it is accompanied by a plan of action. And I'm sure that you also know that in 1986 policy was followed by a plan of action in around, I think, 1992. It came later on after some years, but there must be a plan of action also, which actually, because policy is only a proposed course, and all the nitty-gritties would come ultimately through plan of action or through some other kinds of documents. Next, please. Okay, so reason 2 is that the word faculty, I actually did a little analysis of the text analysis of the whole document of education policy, and I found that the word faculty has been the total number by word faculty has been used is 192 times. It's written 191, but it's 192 times. The word teachers has been written 147 times, and faculty is about 44 times. So it comes out that it was in a 66-page document. It was repeated on an average 3 per page, right? So what does that mean? Does it have some meaning? Does it have some reason? The reason, as I can see, is who is going to implement the policy. The implementation part, if you look into it, whether it is any kind of issue, which we are going to discuss later on, any kind of issue, be doing, or which maybe the organizations would be doing. But 90% of the tasks of implementation are to be done by the faculty. So it is the faculty who is going to implement. It's not the government who is going to implement. And faculty, and therefore we need to engage with this policy. Next, please. Okay. And now there are other reasons also. For example, I need to engage because I want to be aware of the content. It is in English, you can read it yourself and it will bring you more clarity. Sometimes we listen to other people also so that they give us some capsules or some easy pointers so that we can do it in a more convenient way. We also need to critically analyze it because I think as an academician, it is needed that we, and as Dr. Tommy Joseph also said, and the management sir also said that we need to actually critically analyze the whole document. And I need to do it because I am a teacher of anything, not a teacher of education, teacher of physics, teacher of geography, or any other subject. If I am a faculty, if I am a school faculty, if I am a college faculty or a university faculty, I need to read this document and critically engage with it. Also, I am also a citizen. And therefore, as a citizen, again, it becomes my bounden duty to go into it. And as in a democracy, I think citizens have a lot of responsibility. They cannot be just not aware of the things that are there. They cannot be just not be indifferent to things that are there. So I think one of the reasons that I need to, as a citizen also, even if you are not a teacher, every person around who is an aware citizen, who is an educated citizen, I think they need to know about what is there in the policy. And also as a parent, I think many of you will be having your own children. Students also are there. Students are also our children, but we have our children and we have to take decisions as parents and to understand what is going to happen in their lives, in our students' life, in our own children's life. And that is why we need to understand the policy so that we can correct the things that are there. And also as a teacher, I need to understand what would be my role, my status and my future when this policy would come. For example, as I said, that for new teachers, if they are into this and if this policy comes and there are 20 more years to go, so I think this policy is going to affect your role, your status, your future, and therefore it is very much needed that we can perform effectively, so that we are very much clear about what is our status in the whole big picture. To predict its impact and implication, we must be ready for preparing to be ready for what would be the impact of the policy and how would it be implemented, and to read what is not written. As Dr. Tommy Joseph said, that we have to read between the lines. What does that mean? What is there between the lines? There is a gap between the lines. So we have to read that gap. What is not written? Why is it not been written? And therefore, what has not been written, we need to advocate. We have to speak on behalf of those people who are neglected, or those aspects or those parameters of quality educations which have been overlooked. So we have to do that advocacy also. And also finally, I would say as a teacher, as a researcher, it gives me this document, it is a treasure house of ideas. There are so many ideas that I can find, and every page you can find research ideas for thinking, ideas for writing, ideas for arguing. So all this, it is a place where I can find, which informs my teaching and my research. And therefore, it is very much needed that I should engage with NEP 2020 and not as somebody who is, and as I said, in a democracy, I think it is very much needed. Why should I be a resource person? I think all these 100 people who are here, everybody has an opinion on it and can be a resource person, an equal resource person, because all of us have our own experiences to share. And that is what is needed, that all of us get engaged with this NEP 2020 in our own personal and individual ways, so that it becomes a very enriched thing. When it is applied across India, I think it becomes something which is very attuned to my local needs and requirements, as well as my global requirements of my students. I would also like to just submit here that if I lose my connection, please don't worry. I would join again, right? So please, can I have my PPT, please? Yes, I think somebody else has, yes. Okay, it's not coming. Let me pin it then. Right. So next slide, please, Elizabeth. Next slide. Yes.
Slide.
Right. Thank you. So you can see that there are many aspects, and Dr. Joseph has already touched upon this. So we are not going to I am not going to discuss all these things which are crossed. So I am not going to speak about these like research, inclusive education, because as I said that everybody can read the policy. So it is not very important for me to speak about these aspects. What I would be discussing is about the role and things which are directly impacts the student, about the linked issues which are directly linked to the teachers. That is of interest to me as well as everybody who is a faculty. So we are more interested to know what are the things which are directly linked to me. Yes, next please.
Slide. Ma'am.
Yes. Next slide, please. Yes, thank you very much. So this is the first aspect that I want to discuss with you. This aspect is about multidisciplinarity. And if you go into the analysis of the text, you find that the word multidisciplinarity has been written 70 times. So why has it been mentioned repeatedly? It gives us an indication that this is one of the main agenda of the policy. That this multidisciplinarity as a skill, as a course choice. For example, course choice as with science, I think science and humanities kind of things. So all these kind of course choices. They are also talking of multidisciplinarity in research in colleges and universities. That means even universities would not be, or colleges or college, for example, a B.Ed college or an engineering college or an agriculture college would not be a standalone agriculture college or teaching only engineering, but that there would be cross-disciplinary teaching, cross-disciplinary learning, and everywhere there would be some kind of a multidisciplinary output. So this is also not something new, because already it has been discussed in the Yashpal Committee report, and in which Yashpal Committee report also says that we should not have boxed in or airtight compartments to study, but we would be having something we we can also have a long discussion on why is multidisciplinarity good, but we have to actually see that why we have not been, even Yashpal Committee report when it said, and why are we not following this multidisciplinarity when this idea was already there in the Indian higher education scenario? So why were we not doing it? The challenge of multidisciplinarity is not only the challenge of, it's not only a technical or a policy challenge that now it is in the policy, so all of us would like to follow multidisciplinary. There are actually hurdles, and these hurdles are more of mindset issues. Because most of the things that we see in the departments is that we are too much cooped up in our own disciplines. We hardly have a peep into the other disciplines. One of the reasons for it is our architecture. Look at the architecture of our colleges and universities. The departments are separately built. Even in our university, there is a whole science block. There is a whole humanities block. So these blocks are very much separated and segregated. And there are no platforms where people can meet together, where they can discuss together, where they can come up with each other and talk on discuss about their research and how their researches can actually inform and enrich each other's findings. We hardly have spaces. So for the first thing is that we do not even have spaces. And then even if we have spaces, then we do not have that kind of a mindset. And we do not have enough ideas that how we can do multidisciplinarity in research, how I can bring in collaborations. And then we also are not very good team people. We are good individual researchers, but when we do not want to be collaborators. So my next point is of online education. As I said, that multidisciplinarity has been discussed 70 times Similarly, online education has also been discussed 50 times. So that means it is also something very much important, and a whole section has been given to online to the discussion of online education in this policy. So now what I find is, now we have got, due to this pandemic, very I think we are forced to have this experience of online education, and it is willy-nilly we have understood the benefits of online education also, as well as the weak points, as well as the limitations of online education. I think this is a good I think experience or an experiment in which we are forced to do, and we have to understand. But it would go waste if we do not apply our minds and take it in a very conscious and mindful manner, that what this an online education is. I would say, when with the GER, the target of the GER that we have given in this NEP, GER is a gross enrollment ratio. That means how many students of 18 to 25 years of age are enrolled into higher education, which is low in our country, but which is higher in other developed country. And in our government or the policy also says that we are aiming it to be much higher. So if we have to make it much higher, actually we do not have the infrastructure to it. If 100% of the students come into of 18 to 25 years of age, come into traditional institutes, come into the colleges and university, we do not have enough space, enough classrooms or enough seats to actually admit all these students. And therefore, we have to ultimately shift to the online education. There is no, I think, shying away from that online education will be something which is coming into our higher education scenario very impactfully. It will be there. But the point is that as there are, of course, hurdles, there are, of course, problems. For example, the problem of connectivity, the problem of the devices, about the technology not reaching to everybody. I think these issues can be resolved, because these have been earlier also resolved. This is not for the first time that technology is coming in the society, and not the first time it is coming in higher education. Earlier also technology was, when it was coming down and percolating down to the society, there were apprehensions of how it will be taken and whether it will increase the socioeconomic gap or not. Of course, we can see that this gap has been enhanced, and there are people who have been left out in this online education system during the pandemic. But I think we do not have to lose our hearts. Rather, we have to work towards how we can arrange for these things, and arrange not in a very local way, but we have to find out inventions of cheap devices, of more network connectivity. And for that, we need engineers, we need other people, we need technical persons, and everybody has to contribute to that. And already there is this thing this discussion going up in the government, that now, for example, do you remember the time when there was even not electricity in many of the places? So now that problem has been addressed to a certain extent. And I'm sure that there will be a day very soon when this network connectivity problem will also not be there, because it was not a few years ago also the connectivity was very poor even in the towns and cities, but now it has been corrected, and it is, I think, going to percolate down. But again, for that we have to work. Government will work only we are ready to work, because it is through us that the government works. But what I appreciate in this is this is that in online education, all these things are written in a very, very small, brief paragraphs. They say that there would be pilot studies to find out. There would be teaching platforms and tools, and there would be training of the teachers. And I think, and how to take assessments. So most of the things that we actually discuss, that in online education, the problem is how to do experiments, how to work in a lab, how to do research. And our teachers are not trained, and our infrastructure is not there. So I think all these issues have been mentioned, and very briefly mentioned. Of course, a policy would be only briefly mention it, but who will elaborate it? Who will actually work upon it? Who will be researching it? So I think this is a welcome step, and we should be ready to take up online education, but not in a very, I would say, in a non-creative way, but in a very creative and open-minded, flexible way, which is enriching to our students as well as to everybody who is in the society. because you see that actually technology is empowering to everybody. It is empowering to, for example, to when this telephone came, when these mobile phones came, the mobile phones were empowering to everybody, to the vendor who was there and who had no permanent address, but he could find his clientele through only a cell phone, through a cell phone number. So these kind of technologies, let us find out ways through which we will be empowering everybody, all the poorest or the last student in our classroom. Next, please. Yes. The third thing is autonomy. And there are 21 mentions of autonomy in the document. We see that autonomy in choosing aspects of pedagogy, in experimenting with pedagogy, in innovating, in settling curricula and assessment. We were hearing that there was national framework curricula. It is already there. National curricula framework is already there. In 2005, it was there, and it is not to be. We don't have to be fear the NFC. National curricular framework is a framework of things which students should learn. It is not something, an authoritative document that you have to actually follow everything in it, and all the states will be bound to do something or to study something which is not in their local vocabulary or local ideas. It is not like that. National curricular framework is already there. So it is promising. This NEP is promising that it would give us autonomy in settling curricula and assessment and even pedagogy and experimenting with pedagogy, which many people are reading, that it is actually a way of bringing in more private players into the thing. Now the thing is, because they are talking of institutional autonomy, of academic and administrative autonomy, right? Now, are you ready for the autonomy? The first thing is, if today, as a faculty, you are given an autonomy to create your own curricula, to create your own assessment style, are you ready for that? I know of many people who would say that we are not ready for that because it would need a lot of hard work. It would need that you are totally familiar with all that is going on. You are updated with all that is going on in your discipline. And then you create your own courses. And then you find out new ways of assessment, which many of the good universities even in our country, many faculties are doing these kind of things. But all of us, are we ready for that or not? So if the autonomy is given to me, am I good for autonomy? Or whether the autonomy will again produce not desirable results. We have to think about it. Next, please. Yes, I am very happy that this policy actually talks of critical thinking, though it talks about it only about 10 times, but it also talks about, right in the introduction, first of all, it talks about as a fundamental principle. And then because critical thinking is something of, it has been a taboo in education. We have seen that how we are teaching, what kind of mindset do we have? We have no scope for thinking. Our textbooks discourage thinking. They are written in a way which actually stops thinking. And we do not allow, as teachers, I would say, though it is a generalized statement that I am making, but most of the time I have seen that the teachers are not very encouraging towards students who are asking questions. And we are always giving more value to compliance. There is this cultural thing also in our culture. We need people who are compliant, who are compliant to their parents, who are compliant to their gurus, and who are compliant to the society. And that value is too much given value above healthy doubt. So therefore, we do not train our students to critically think. And it is really a very great problem when students come to the level of PhD and then they are asked to do critical assessment, critical evaluation. They actually do not know how to do this critical thinking because they have till all their education, they have been only given instructions and they have been following instructions. Right in the school, right in the college, till the university, they are never asked to critically engage, to critically evaluate. So this kind of training is very much needed. And this policy even says that physical infrastructure and discussion spaces would be created. I think that is a very good idea that has been floated. Can we create enough discussion spaces? In your college, do you have a good place or good area where people can just sit, have a simple cup of tea, and colleagues can sit, or even teachers and students can sit and do an informal kind of chatting about their research or about the new book that they have read? Is there some kind of a collegiality is there? Is there some these pleasant public spaces? Are they there? I find that many of the colleges do not even have physical infrastructure for discussions. So that challenge is there. How we teach, when we have to invoke critical thinking, we have to totally, completely change about the way we teach. So if we invoke critical thinking, and it is again a challenge for the teacher, because the teacher has been very happy and convenient and comfortable in the rut of teaching in a very routine way, in a traditional way, without invoking thinking. So are we ready for that? Yes, next please. Okay, so the another very controversial idea which has been floated about is the India-centricness of the facility, of the policy. And it has been repeated, you see that 309 times we see that Indian, these kind of words have been described in the policy. And these ideas are also there, that the Indian policy philosophy as a guiding light, legacy of heritage should be researched, and as pride in being Indian. And even Dr. Joseph was saying that why they have not mentioned Rabindranath or some. I would say that a policy is not a Wikipedia that we have to put all the names into it. It is only a mention. It is only a mention. Yes, it has been biased in taking up only the ancient Indian ideas. But what I can see in it, or what we can do with it is, look, I have for all my career, I have been very much bothered about less examples from Indian places, or Indian examples are not there. Even Indian books are not there. Even textbooks are not there. And if I take out from my library all the foreign authors' writings, my library would be half empty, because we do not write enough books. As teachers, as we are not good authors of our textbooks, so we hardly write. We hardly write in our own languages. And when we write, we hardly write bringing up the examples of the indigenous variety, of Indian scenarios. Do we have enough case studies when we teach them business or management? Do we have enough case studies which are Indian case studies of Indian companies? When we give them examples, do we have enough examples which come out from our own milieu? They're hardly there. So I think there is this idea that India-centric doesn't mean that there is an agenda here. We don't have to be afraid about it if we think about it in a proper manner. And the manner is that I have that locus of control in me, and it is up to me that how do I define it. So I would just now, yes, next please. Yes, next please. Yes. Okay. So look, if you go into the research of how teachers have been engaged with certain policies, we see that the teacher interaction with education policy, there are different models. For example, there is this model, teachers as partners, teachers as implementers. Of course, teachers would be implementers here. But then there are models of teachers as opponents, and also teachers as policy makers in practice. In fact, this is the way. This is the ideal way in which we should see teachers engaging with the policy, that they should be policy makers in practice. And do you remember that there was this draft education policy, which was there of 350 pages, and which came before, and there were lots of deliberations, there were lots of seminars going on everywhere, that what we should recommend into this draft policy. And many people have already sent their recommendations. We also sent it from our university as well as individually. But I don't know how many of those recommendations have been actually used. So there is a research here that how much teacher voice is there in this? How much practitioner voice is in this policy? Have the practitioners, because this is a group. Of course, a policy would not be made by everybody in the country or all faculties in the country. They would be made by a small group, and these groups might have their ideas. But then many of the teachers, they behave as if it will not make a difference. Right? And then some people say we have no role in creation, but we have full role in implementation. So then they are also cynic and angry about it. There is a disconnect and distrust. Most of the time we say, oh, they have given us to this. We do not, I think, to me. And then there is another way in which we deal. And it is closing one's door. It means it is a micro-political action. It means the policy is there in spirit, in letter, but what we do inside my classroom, when I close the door of my classroom, I do my own thing. I hardly give them I don't give them an opportunity to critically think. I do not give them any multidisciplinary ideas or indigenous examples. So then I'm doing my own thing. So that can also be a way in which a micro-political action can be taken. So it is us, we faculty, how do we choose to engage with this policy? How do you choose to engage with this policy? Yes, next please. Yes. Now my final question, my final reflection about how can I engage with NEP 2020. The first thing is read the policy. Please, have you read the policy? It is 66 pages only. And if you are not interested, you can skip all the school education policies if you are not interested, right? So at least give, Dr. Joseph actually told you from which page to which page is the higher education policy. So go to the higher education only if you are interested only in higher education. So at least my first thing is go back and read it word by word. You will find out many things. And then you have discussions like this kind of a discussion in which we are discussing, different people are coming and discussing. I would rather have more interactive discussion. With small groups, we can have more interactive discussions in which not only the resource, but it's not a monologue, but everybody is speaking and everybody's voice can be heard. Then we must write what we think. Why don't we write? If we are, what kind of a power does a faculty have? Do you have position? We don't have an authoritative position from where we can give directions or we can give instructions to be followed by the society, right? We do not have the power of money. We do not have the political power. So what kind of a power do we have? I think as faculty, I have the power of thinking, of writing, of reading, of speaking, and of researching. And also I have a power on my students of molding them into my own ideology. So these are, I think, enough powers with which we can bring changes. So we can research things, we can publish, we can write and we can publish, we can speak about our ideas. And finally, everything has to boil down into action. Now, what is my idea is, look, this national education policy belongs to everybody, each faculty of us, everybody of us. It is not a policy of a particular government. It is not a policy of a particular group of people, but it is a policy which belongs to every one of us. And I will give it meaning. I will not take anybody else's meaning. I will give the meaning to it. I will define it as I wish to define. I will flesh it out. And I would shape the public opinion because it is about the narrative creation. How do you create a story around the policy? If there is another story which somebody else is spreading, I will also have my own policy. I will also have my own story. And I can shape the public opinion. I will have my students, I will have my group of peers, and I will have my own narrative. I will have my own story. Let us make it more tangible and boil it down to the points. Because if it says multidisciplinary, then what does that mean actually? And why do we need it? Then we have to guide our students according to it. We have to implement it and we have to facilitate the implementation. Implementation which we think is all right. And then finally, we have to do action research. Something I also want to say that in India, we also find that most of the time, these kind of policies are made because there are not enough evidences. There are not enough evidences at the grassroots level. As you said, India is such a huge and large country and such a diverse country that what works here will not work in the next district also. So that therefore we need even more. This is the reason why we need to write, why we need to document, why give my unique perspective. Because that would enrich and that would create the whole picture. And that would create an evidence which will finally give the shape to the policy. Because the policy is there, I think, and we need to critically we need to actually, these are the references which are there. You can go, these two papers are very good. And I would also just remind you that we are the ones we have been waiting for. So don't wait for somebody else to interpret the policy for you. Don't wait for somebody else to come and tell you that this means only this. That if I say about India-centric, then it only means ancient education. it only means only these people. It doesn't mean that. He can have his own idea of what national education policy mean, but I will read it as I wish. And therefore, I would think that we have a locus of control. I think there is this idea of locus of control, external and internal. So this is my internal locus of control, that I have the control of the policy and I will make meaning out of it. And wherever there a hurdle would be there, and I would try to correct it, I would try to advocate for it, and I would try to cross it. I think that would be enough for how I think that would be enough advice for how should the faculty engage with the policy. So thank you very much. Next slide, please. And please, I'll wait for your feedback. Online webinars are successful only when they do not end when the session ends, but it should actually go on beyond that, be all the discussions, because here I don't think how much discussion we will be able to do, but I think the discussions should go on and on, and we derive something out of it, and we internalize the ideas, we actually bring them into our action, and we percolate whatever we have learned down to the students who take it to the society. That is the role that we have to play. Thank you very much, and I'm open for the discussion.
True, very true, ma'am. What you said was exactly right. And now we move on to the discussion session. All of you who have questions may ask ma'am your questions or your inputs on this talk that we had now. It was very enlightening and interesting. Those who want to ask questions may please unmute your mic, or those who are on YouTube can actually put it on the chat box and we will ask the question for you.
Yes.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Hello? Jayanti ma'am? I think ma'am's connection got disconnected. We'll wait for a while she rejoins. Those of you who have questions, may please put it in the chat box or may ask ma'am directly when she joins back.
Yes, I am back. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. We can hear you.
Yes, yes. What were the questions? Let me see. Okay, I have lost the chat. So are there any questions that you have?
Yes, ma'am. Pardeep Kumar has asked a question regarding the autonomy of institutions and future of status of permanent jobs because of the policy.
Okay, right. Are you asking me to predict or what do I think? I think, of course,
Yes.
permanent jobs, as Dr. Joseph has already said, that more tenure track things would be there. But I would say that it is not only in higher education, but all the other sectors also. In all the sectors, this thing is coming up. That more and more this permanent thing, the regular thing of long tenures of 30 years, permanent things are all going out, and this is the trend everywhere. So I would not say that it is because of the, just think when we say that it is because of the policy, what are the things that we will be doing. Just remember that we are already into this policy. If not in the 2020 policy, we are already in the 1986 policy. So what are the things that we are watching everywhere? Everywhere we are saying that we are seeing that the temporary positions are coming up, and the more trend is towards ad hocism, towards temporariness, and towards guest lecturers, these kind of things, and permanent positions are very less. So I think it is very obvious, and it is very we can see this that these the old stability of the traditional kind of stability that we saw earlier would not be there. But I would say it is not only in the higher education but everywhere. But the question is now, if it is like that, then what we have to do? How should we? Is it? And we also sometimes what happens is things when we are more used to in the traditional system, we think these things are good things because we are much more habituated towards it. We do not know whether that this new system, unless we see it or unless we use some kind of way to find out whether it would also be good or not good. So we have to find out the things, and we have to find out new ways. My only thing is that there are every day we are going away from what was the old system every day, and it happens in history or all the human evolution, all the human civilization. It happens like that only, that we move every day away from the older path and towards the newer world. So we incremental changes are there. But there are certain watershed moments in which that change becomes very clear to us. So I think this is that moment where we are already moving towards that kind of a temporariness. We have already been moving towards this for the last, I think, 2 decades. I would say 15 years or so. But now this is the moment where it becomes more concrete, tangible, or seeable. Right? This is my answer to your question. That yes, I would say more tenure track positions would be there, more accountability would be there, and this has happened in the developed countries also. If we like to find out in comparison or in some other countries where the same arc was there, so we find that it has happened in other countries also. Yes, please. Other question, please.
Anybody else would like to ask questions? You may please unmute.
Can I ask a question? Hello?
Yes, Anilji. Yes, hello. Yes, Dr. Anil.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. The kind of interdisciplinary courses. Okay, so the university and UGC is promoting interdisciplinary courses in the new era, but the students are applying for different kinds of job and other kinds of opportunities are constrained.
I cannot hear you properly. I think please write on the chat.
Okay, welcome. Okay. Hello, ma'am.
Yes. I think what you are saying is that students, when they go for the multidisciplinary thing, then they are facing a problem. This is what you are saying? I think please write on the chat.
Anil sir, please write it on the
Yes.
chat box.
Okay, definitely.
In the meantime, ma'am, there is another question through YouTube. Gopi Kumar has actually asked a question to bring out the flaws in the proposal. Okay, no, sorry. He's actually commenting that bringing out the flaws in the proposal is fine, and he's asking for suggestions to improve them, improve whatever are
The
the
flaws?
problems, yeah, in the policy.
Look, I have already answered this question when I say that we look what can we do in a half an hour discussion, right? It is a very serious document, very 66 pages document, and in this document there are many other issues. For example, school issues are there, higher education, professional development, agriculture education, vocational education. But I would say, let us not call them flaws, first of all. Let us not call them problems or something which is wrong. Because then it is a different kind of a perspective when we say that we are opposing the thing. Let me have a perspective. Of course, everything that we write or that we prepare, there would be some kind of a difference of opinion and difference of perspective in it. If I ask you to prepare a document and you prepare, let us say, let us all of us do this exercise. I prepare a national education policy myself, and you also prepare a policy yourself. Then let us find out that whether we can prepare a totally, wholly, foolproof policy or not. Of course, policy issues would be there because of the way in which which government is making it, who are the people who are into it, what is the agenda of that government, that would always be there. So let us not first of all acknowledge it. Let us first of all acknowledge this. So when we acknowledge it, then what we do is in the democracy, as I said, it is everybody's duty to actually look towards it and find out the flaws, point towards those flaws, and work to remove, correct those flaws, and advocate for correction of those flaws. So this is my take in it. That I would not tell you. Why should I tell you? What are the? So I do not have any solutions to everything because I'm not an expert on everything, right? If you ask me what is the problem of multidisciplinarity or what is the problem of autonomy, I can tell you about these things based upon my own experience and little research or little things that I have read. So that is all about my expertise. So I cannot tell you about the flaws, but I can tell you about how we can deal with this. So I would say rather let us deal with these as a researcher. Let us deal with these as a very active member of the democracy of the country and somebody who is an objective person, somebody who can understand the agenda and read beyond the line. So this is what I would say. Yes, I would. Anilji is saying that interdisciplinary courses are promoting, but when they are applying for different opportunities, narrow specialization is appreciated and considering how can we settle the contradiction. Yes, I would say that this is one of the issues because this CBCS was earlier there. I think it is in many, I think in Kerala also CBCS has been implemented. In Himachal Pradesh, which is a closer neighboring state, it has been implemented. And when what has happened in Himachal Pradesh is a very, I think it is a hilly state. And even in hilly state, there is a lot of diversity. So there are, even after that, the government and the faculty have tried and they have implemented CBCS there. And in this CBCS, we have the choice of physics, chemistry, and music, or mathematics and Sanskrit. So these kind of combinations students have taken. But what happened when these students actually went to the market with these kind of specialization, they did not fit anywhere. In fact, they had even problem in getting into higher education, further education also. Because as I said, the policy, as somebody said, policy cannot be seen in isolation. If you want multidisciplinary, then all the milieu should also be multidisciplinary. And of course, as Anilji said, when you go for an interview, then they always ask, what is your expertise? And we must have an expertise. And having expertise is not bad. And I think we cannot all be multidisciplinary because we need experts to deal with things. And I am happy that there are experts who are sending satellites into spaces. There are experts who are dealing with the pandemic. And there are experts who are into the engineering. I am happy about it because that is how the world works. But I would say by multidisciplinary, if you ask me, I would say that we must have an idea of flexibility of the boundaries, of multidisciplinary respect towards the other disciplines, and of crossing across the boundaries, so that we can get ideas and we can give ideas which will enrich our research, and which till now has been a very narrow thing, because what we have been doing is we have been very tightly bound into our compartment. And I have seen people, for example, I have seen science teachers or science people who are so much into their narrow domains that they never get out and peep into what is happening left or right. And that does not enrich their research, that does not enrich their teaching. So if you ask me by multidisciplinary, I would reply like this. Yes, please. Yes, Dr. Elizabeth?
Yes, ma'am. We have another question from Sonali Subha. She's talking about NEP envisions increasing privatization of Indian higher education, which is dangerous and will make higher education lose its quality of equitable growth. When affiliated colleges are asked to be autonomous, the question of funding must be addressed. How is it envisaged? Can there be philanthropy without concerns about the commodification of education? Ma'am, what are your comments on this?
Yes, I would say, look, these are all very real issues, and these have to be dealt about the budget. For example, see the percentage that they are announcing that in NEP this budget enhancement would be there. But it has been said for the last 70 years. I think for so many policies and for in so many commissions, we have seen that the budget for education would enhance, but it has not. So we have to see all these things. And my take is not about giving solutions to the participants. My take is about every participant or every faculty or every citizen is equipped to find out a small bit of solution to this huge problem. So let us do our bit and let us contribute to the nation's development and for correct implementation of this national education policy by contributing to my small bit. I would say these challenges and these problems or these flaws would always be there in any document that is there. Whether this government makes it, whether some other government makes it, and there would be agenda. Of course, market forces are also there. So with our research skills, to the faculty, what I understand is, let us assume this responsibility to research into these fields and produce evidence-based things so that we can force people to take a decision which comes out through the evidence. So that evidence that I create, that would be my contribution, because when the policy is made, it is more of a wish list. And many a times, and I do not comment on whether it has been made like that or not, many a time, because in India it's such a huge country, we do not have enough evidences, because teachers in the classrooms are also not producing enough evidences of how we teach, what are the issues or problems that we are facing. And I think India being a very unique country and a diverse country, as I said, the problems which we face in Chandigarh are different from the problems that people in Maharashtra face and people in Andaman Nicobar face. So I cannot talk on their behalf. What is their issue? What is their problem? We have to write about them. We have to produce it. We have to research about them. We have to do action research about them. And we have to produce evidences about them. So that is my idea of looking at the NEP. Let us not take it as a dry document, which I have to read, I have to find flaws, and I have to give suggestions, do this, do that. But I go beyond that. My idea is that let us take it as a challenge and let us find out how I can contribute to the correct implementation of it. And if I say that it is a flaw, then I will not say it is a flaw unless I have hard evidence with me, unless I have some empirical evidence in my hand. So there is a huge work left for us as faculty, as researchers, as teachers, as citizens. We have a huge work in our hand. Let us not just speak this and that. Let us why don't we bring out a volume? And I would suggest the IQAC of St. Mary's and St. Xavier's, bring out a volume and ask stakeholders to give their views, to write research papers. In a very time-bound manner, let us take 1 year or 6 months and do empirical researches in our field, in our locality. What is the aspect of online education? How can we do the students that we are teaching? How many of the students can go to higher education? The society, the socio-economic condition that are there, how many will be left out if there is privatization? So let us not speak in air, but let us base everything that we say on evidences. This is my take. Thank you very much. Yes, Elizabeth.
Yes, ma'am. Then there is another question from Mr. Abhilash. He's talking about the different programs that the government has brought, DPEP, SSA, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, and all that. How NEP will complement the so-called already implemented programs? Because
complement what you are saying, that how this NEP is helpful in this Beti Bachao or SSA or DPEP. This is what you are asking?
Yes.
I do not have any idea about this. Right? What you are saying is whether these programs would be enhanced or not. Right? I think this is what he is asking.
Are there anything in this policy to support these programs or to complement these programs?
Actually, as I said, the policy is not complete until it is followed by a plan of action. So when we have not seen a plan of action, this policy, I can make any meaning out of it. Right? So this is my submission, that let us, when the plan of action will be made, let us be sure that we have enough things in our hand so that we can prepare a plan of action which suits my students and my institute and my society's needs and requirements are fulfilled and taken care of. And that is the duty of the faculty. Again, I am sorry if I am repeating the same answer again and again, but that is my take, because unless we do this, there is no point in reading a dry document as if it is a piece of text and not engaging with it in a living manner. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, you're absolutely right. What you're saying is we totally agree with what you're saying. And we are waiting for a few more questions. Are any more questions there? You can please unmute your mic and ask the question directly to ma'am. Any more questions? I think there are no more questions. We'll move on to the last part of this today's session. Before that, I will try to repeat once more that tomorrow also we have the continuation of this webinar, and the same Google Meet link will be applicable for tomorrow's meeting as well. And the feedback form is given here in the chat box. Please fill the feedback forms. Only those who fill both the forms of today and tomorrow's feedback will be getting the e-certificate. So please do not forget to fill those feedback forms. Now I request Dr. Tommy Joseph of the Department of Physics, the HOD of the Department of Physics of St. Xavier's College, Wycombe, to give the vote of thanks for today's session. Thank you. Tommy, sir. Tommy, sir, he is the IQAC coordinator of St. Xavier's College, Wycombe. Sir, I request you to kindly give the vote of thanks for today. Tommy, sir? Sir?
Then please go on with the discussion. I will call him. I think he has just left. Let me see.
Okay. In the meantime, anybody has any more questions, you may please ask.
Ma'am, Anita ma'am, whether I am audible?
Yes, sir. You're audible.
Respected and honorable chair of the program.
Tommy, sir, we can't see you. We cannot see you.
Okay. Let me. So can you see me?
No,
Can
sir.
you see me? Now? Hello?
Yes, sir.
No,
Yes,
okay,
sir.
no.
We can see you.
Okay. Respected and honorable chair of the program, Dr. Shanti George, Principal, St.Mary's College, Sultan Bathery. The eminent speakers of the day, Dr. Jayanti Dutta Roy, Deputy Director, HRDC, Punjab University, Dr. Tommy Yusuf, Associate Professor, St. Xavier's College, Vaikam, Reverend Father Joshi Prambil, the Manager, Dr. Rajamanchi Maungal, Principal, St. Xavier's College, Vaikam, webinar conveners, Lieutenant Roy Matthew and Ms. Anita Elizabeth Matthew, teachers and faculty members from different universities and colleges, and my dear colleagues. Good evening to everybody. It is an honor for me to express my sincere gratitude to everyone present here for the two-day national webinar on NEP. I, Dr. Tommy Yusuf, IQC Coordinator of St. Xavier's College, Vaikam, on behalf of the entire organization team, extends my heartily gratitude to the eminent speakers and all others. We are grateful to Dr. Jayanti Dutta Roy for expressing her views on reflection on how faculty should engage with the NEP. As she told, as a teacher or a faculty member, we should be equipped by ourselves to accept the new education policy. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much for making this webinar a success. Thank you. Further, I would like to express our sincere thanks to Dr. Tommy Joseph, Associate Professor in Economics, St. Xavier's College, Vaikam, who made a critical assessment on NEP. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. I also wish our gratitude to Reverend Father Joshi Parambil, the manager, who has made the felicitation or the function. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Father. I also extend my sincere gratitude to Dr. Rajamanchi Maungal, Dr. Shanti George, who had given the wholehearted support for the program. Hello? Can you hear?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay. Okay, my deep sense of appreciation to all the organization team, especially to Lieutenant Roy Matthew, St. Xavier's College, Vaikam, and Ms. Anita Elizabeth Matthew, St. Mary's College, who has taken stress and strain for this program. Last but not least, I express our wholehearted thanks to all the participants. Thank you.